Good evening, and welcome to the latest happenings inside our federal machine.
It's Tuesday, March 3rd, 2026, and here's what's happening in the swamp. Secretary of State Marco Rubio testifies in front of Congress today over the conflict with Iran. Democrats attempt to turn up the heat against him, and Marco, being Marco, puts them in their place quite effectively. Prior to Marco Rubio appearing before Congress, he held a press conference to take questions from the media regarding the Iranian conflict. And Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem was back in front of Congress again today. A screaming anti-ICE protester was thrown out during the hearing. For the rest of the hearing, the lack of funding for Homeland Security was discussed, as well as the ongoing operations to remove illegal immigrants. And California Governor Gavin Newsom's new law that concealed gender transitions of students from their own parents was decided in the Supreme Court today, and we'll have a look at that decision. President Trump met with the German chancellor at the White House, where they plan to discuss future trade between our countries, as well as the Iranian conflict. Iran's airport in Tehran, named Hyderabad International, was significantly bombed today, and footage shows a large swath of the airport on fire. We also have more combat footage out of U.S. Central Command from today and news segments covering the ongoing conflict. And we're going to dive into a bunch of other things that happened today, so don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for daily updates that you probably won't see here on the mainstream media anywhere. And also, if you drop a comment, I may read it during tomorrow's episode, and every article I come across will be linked below in the description. And the highlight clips from tonight will begin dropping on the channel tomorrow at 8 a.m. Eastern. We're going to start right here with Ian Jager. Watching how Marco Rubio responds to Democratic members of Congress is exactly why he will be president one day. This is an absolute masterclass.
I have to tell you directly and personally that I regret voting for you for Secretary of State. I yield back.
May I respond?
You may.
Well, he was voted
first of all,
unanimously.
your regret for voting for me confirms
It's got to
you're
say
doing a
something.
good job, based on what I know.
Well, that's
about
just
your
a
record
flippant
and what you
statement,
stand
Mr.
for.
Secretary.
Can I respond, Mr. Chairman?
You may.
Oh, please.
I didn't ask
Senator,
questions.
please let the Secretary.
Tammy
I'd be
Bruce
happy
back
to,
there
but
with
then I can respond
UN.
to his
Your
response.
time's up, Senator, and willfully used, I might add.
Well-
your remarks do not represent the
Dude, you
view
ain't
of
the
this
chairman.
committee.
Well, Mr.
You're just a
Chairman,
Democrat.
Please.
Well, I'd like to. I can't respond to everything
I really
you said because
piss you
much
one
of
at
these
that.
are untrue, but I'll go through a few. First of all, I'm actually very proud of the work we've done with USAID. For example,
Amen,
I don't
man.
regret cutting $10 million
Terminated.
for male circumcisions in Mozambique. I don't know how that
Wow.
makes us stronger and more prosperous as a nation.
I
don't regret.
Male circumcisions in Mozambique, making America so much stronger.
Psychosocial
Thanks to the
support
Democrats.
services
I raised
USAID.
Sudan,
Your tax
Mr.
dollars at
Secretary,
Can I
work.
respond,
not
Mr. Chairman, or do I?
Senator, I'd ask you to suspend. You had 7 straight minutes.
I chose.
Which means he gave him 2 extra minutes, because in these committee hearings, they typically only get 5 minutes. And he was gracious enough to give him an extra 2 minutes. Anytime that they're in charge of Congress and they're holding committee hearings, whenever there's a Republican that is given his 5 minutes, the second that he goes over, they immediately start gaveling. Okay, your time's expired. Your time's expired. Nope, no more words, no more. But anytime that Republicans are in charge, they always give them leniency. They always give them an extra minute, extra 2 minutes, and they just give them so much room to speak. But when Democrats are in charge, no, they don't give Republicans a single
To
inch.
use my time
very
that
frustrating.
way, Mr. Chairman. That's my right to
Please
use my
suspend
time that way.
Secretary Rubio.
Well, I can go on. I mean, there's other things here. We spent $227,000 for Big Cat's YouTube channel from USAID.
Wow.
We spent
Why?
$14 million for social cohesion in Mali, whatever the hell that means. So I can go on and on. I got
Social
the list here, and there's
cohesion?
more. I didn't even bring
Sounds
the whole
bad.
list. In the case of El Salvador, absolutely. Absolutely. We deported gang members, including the one you had a margarita with. And that guy is a human trafficker, and that guy is a gangbanger, and the evidence is going to be clear. In the days to come,
Mr.
you're going to see
Chairman,
who you went to
look,
defend.
I'm sorry,
please,
Mr. Chairman.
Secretary
No.
Rubio has the floor.
Mr. Chairman, he can't make unsubstantiated comments
Senator,
like that.
Secretary Rubio has the floor. You
Secretary
had your time.
Rubio should take that testimony to the federal court of the
Senator,
United States because
well,
he hasn't done it under oath.
Here's another point, okay? There is a division in our government between the federal branch and the judicial branch. No judge in the judicial branch cannot tell me or the president how to conduct foreign policy. No judge can tell me how I have to outreach to a foreign partner or what I need to say to them. And if I do reach to that foreign partner and talk to them, I have under no obligation to share that with the judiciary branch. Just like a judge cannot order me to negotiate with a foreign minister of Russia, they cannot order me to negotiate with a foreign minister or the president of El Salvador. And if I did negotiate with them, which we have responded to them, and we've told them, we've had communications with the president of El Salvador. I am under no obligation, under our division of powers in this country, and to share with the judicial branch how I conducted diplomacy of the United States. It would actually be counterproductive. If I started sharing with courts, or frankly, with the media, my conversations with foreign leaders and all of their details, no foreign leader would talk to me again, and we would break trust with them. So I have complied with every court order. What I won't comply with is an order to disclose what I'm saying and what we're talking about with a foreign leader, because then they won't talk to me. Diplomacy doesn't work that way. About the student visas, let me say this. I don't deport anybody, and I don't snatch anybody. The State Department does not have officers in the street snatching everybody. What I do is revoke visas, and it's very simple. A visa is not a right. It is a privilege. People apply for student visas to come into the United States and study. And if you tell me that you're coming to the United States to lead campus crusades, to take over libraries and try to burn down buildings and acts of violence, we're not going to give you a visa.
Is that what Ms.
Hell
Ostor
no.
did?
We're not going to give you a visa.
Is that what she did? Come on, Mr. Secretary.
And every
Oh,
single
okay,
one
you
of
got
these
one
rules
name?
and factors are different.
Senator,
the bottom line
Dude.
is, if you're coming here to stir
I'm sure we
trouble
got
on our
thousands
campuses,
of these
we will
assholes.
deny you a visa. And if you
Does
have
the
a
First
visa
Amendment
and we find
apply
you,
to
we'll
people
revoke
living in the
it.
United States?
And we're going to do more. There are more coming.
He's going to grandstand on the First Amendment. Well, these people that come in here with the student visa to study, but instead they're just going to start firebombing buildings and fighting the cops. Well, they've got a First Amendment right, too.
Continue to revoke
Dude,
the
fuck that
visas
shit.
of people who are
Get 'em
here
the
as
hell outta
guests
here, man.
and are disrupting our higher education facilities. People
sell
are paying
crazy
money,
someplace
these kids
else.
pay money to go to school, and they have to walk
Writing
through a
an
bunch of
op-ed
lunatics
to the
who are
top
here on student
newspapers
visas.
disrupting the
Simple
foreign
as
policy
that.
of the United
I want to
States.
do more. I hope we can
That's
find more of these people.
pathetic, Mr.
In fact, the
Secretary.
other day,
Dude, get
some
those
guys led a
emotions
riot.
out,
I forgot
man.
what university it was. And
Can
I
'em.
asked,
Can
please,
those
can you find
emotions.
the arrest records of all the people that were arrested at that riot at that campus, because if any of them have a visa, we're going to revoke
I
it.
feel so much
Amen.
shame
All
that
right,
you lock up
let's,
people
revoke
like Ms.
all of
Ostor,
them.
Mr. Secretary.
We've had enough time on the subject. Thank you very much, and we're going to move.
Yeah, see, and that's exactly what Democrats want. They want to import a bunch of people that are just going to just burn the whole system to the ground, because that's what the Democrats want. They want the Great Reset. They want everything to be started new with their new communist utopian system where everybody's going to own nothing and be happy, but in reality, we're going to be dirt poor. Hollywood's already signaled that to us for decades, since I was born. I mean, you look at movies like Blade Runner and Looper and like all of these other sci-fi movies, they're all in dystopic hellholes. That's exactly where they want us to be. Anyway, whatever. So, Marco Rubio, he's a fucking G. And he's from my state, my senator, until he became Secretary of State, so you're welcome. Now we've got Ashley Moody, and I think she's doing a good job so far, appointed by Governor DeSantis when Marco went to the Trump administration. All right, so anyway, let's go to Libs of TikTok. Unhinged protester screaming abolish ICE, forcibly removed after attempting to interrupt the testimony of DHS Secretary Kristi Noem. I figured I'd lead with this because this probably happened in the early part of the hearing, because these protesters, they never stick around. They just want to just make a shitload of noise and they get kicked out. Hopefully they got kicked out for life. Right out of the Capitol. Oh yeah, it's real quiet because they muted all the mics.
You should be ashamed of yourself. Yours not say abolish ICE. Yours not say abolish ICE.
Another liberal white woman. What a
proceed.
shocker.
Thank you, Mr.
Delusional, psychopathic,
Ranking member,
no husband.
Senator Durbin as well. And
All right. Okay, so anyway, let's go move on to the next one. From Secretary Kristi Noem herself, the Democrat DHS shutdown has consequences for American citizens and hardworking families. Our cybersecurity agency at CISA has lost hundreds of workers who have been furloughed. We have training for weapons of mass destruction, for detecting bombs and terrorist activities across the country, many of whom work with our local law enforcement who have been furloughed and are not on active duty. The Democrat Party is damaging families long-term to make a political point when it has no effect on what we are doing for immigration enforcement every single day, because that agency is funded, and funded they are, and they're going to be funded for quite some time. I think at least for the next couple of years, if I'm not
The
mistaken.
patriots that work at the Department of Homeland Security still get up every day and do their jobs and work hard to protect the American people. There's individuals in some of our departments, though, that have been furloughed. That it's not an option for them to come in, and they're not getting paychecks. They're not able to pay their rent, put food on the table for their kids. Our cybersecurity agency has lost hundreds of workers that have been furloughed. We've got weapons of mass destruction that does training for detecting bombs and terrorist activities across the country and works with our local law enforcement, has been furloughed and is not on duty today. We have ICE and CBP and officers at Secret Service and some Coast Guard elements that are still there and are essential employees that are showing up and doing their jobs, but their support staff isn't able to work and their contracting isn't getting done and their management practices aren't getting done and those families are struggling. Many of these TSOs at TSA that are running these security checkpoints are borrowing money so that they can get through a short period here without paychecks, but they just got through one of those and they're still in debt from paying the fines and penalties for late bills.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. Poor TSA.
We are damaging
Second time they're going without a paycheck.
To make a political point that the Democratic Party is damaging families long term to make a political point when it has no effect on what we're able to do for immigration enforcement out there every single day because that agency is funded.
And they're just on the wrong side, man. They doubled down to the point where they're just backed completely up into a corner, and they're just simply trying to just hope and pray that people are just effectively brainwashed enough to just continue voting for him. Although I don't know how the hell that's just going to continue working in the long run, because people are starting to wake up. And if there's a terror attack, that's going to be 100% on the Democrats, no matter how hard they try and spin that narrative in the media, because they're going to have to answer as to, well, why did you really look? We understand why you told us that you're defunding Department of Homeland Security. It's completely ineffective because you're screaming ICE all the time, but ICE is already funded. At this point in time, it has nothing to do with Homeland Security funding. It really doesn't. So you're going to defund Homeland Security. We got, God forbid, let's hope that doesn't happen. But if that happens, they're going to have a hell of a lot to answer for. So, okay, so let's move on. Oh, yeah, and for the record, these might not be in order. Actually, I can pretty well guarantee that they're not in order. I didn't have time to watch the hearing during the day, so I just grabbed the highlights from the hearing. And from RNC Research, Secretary Noem slams Democrats for holding DHS hostage. It's a long quote. We're going to hear the quote in the video. So any of these that have quotes, I'm just going to skip through them or skip past them.
It's our duty as a department to defend our homeland. The latest Democrat-led shutdown of DHS is reckless.
Democrat-led?
It's unnecessary, and it undermines the American national security, and it harms the men and women who work at DHS and their families. Despite the House passing a bipartisan, bicameral full-year DHS funding bill, it is Senate Democrats who've chosen not to fund the department and have held this department hostage. As a result, critical national security missions, including border security, immigration enforcement, aviation security, disaster response, cybersecurity, and the protection of critical infrastructure are all being strained. It's our duty as a department to defend our homeland. The latest Democrat-led shutdown of DHS is reckless, it's unnecessary, and it undermines the American national security, and it harms the men and women who work at DHS and their families. Despite the House passing a bipartisan, bicameral full-year DHS funding bill, it is Senate Democrats who've chosen not to fund the department and have held this department hostage. As a result, critical national security missions, including border security, immigration enforcement, aviation security, disaster response, cybersecurity, and the protection of critical infrastructure are all being strained.
Yeah, not only being strained, they're effective. They're really ineffective, basically. And the Democrats in this hearing, they're just going to keep propping up Renee Good and Alex Preddy, who are the two violent protesters, I might add, that were killed by federal agents. Alex spat on a federal agent, literally spat on him. It's on camera. It's out there. It's on camera. I've played it on the swamp multiple times. He also violently kicked out a taillight of a federal agent's vehicle. He had so much anger pent up in him that he kicked out a taillight, completely kicked it out of the vehicle. And it was a brand new car. And Renee Good, she struck a federal agent with her car because they were obstructing, both of them, not at the same time. They were this separate instances, but she struck an agent with her vehicle. And we know this because he was sent to the hospital, caused internal bleeding into his abdomen. He had to spend time in the hospital, and that was confirmed by the federal government. And so these aren't innocent people by any means, which is what the Democrats want you to believe, which, by the way, I thought to come up with this, or I decided to ask Grok this. So regarding angel families, which angel families, they refer to relatives of Americans killed in crimes, often homicides, including vehicular homicide, committed by undocumented immigrants or illegal immigrants, illegal aliens, so on and so forth. So how many were killed as it pertains to them, to the angel family? So how many were killed by illegal immigrants? That's where I was getting at. I asked it earlier. Grok said, well, we don't keep keep any statistics. We don't have any data on that, so it didn't give me a number, which of course it reiterates and says there is no single official nationwide count. But it at least gave me this. It honored 62 people. This is regarding recent prominent reference, February 2026, the White House, which is national. President Trump was recognizing and establishing National Angel Family Day proclamation and event under President Trump. He honored 62 people that were killed by illegal immigrants, plus 2 survivors, alongside named high-profile cases like Laken Riley and Rachel Morin and Kayla Hamilton and others dating back years. Okay, so at a very bare minimum, which we know the number is going to be way higher than this, it's got to be in the hundreds of people that were killed by illegal immigrants. I mean, look, a lot of them are gangbangers. A lot of them came from mental asylums because they actually did. They emptied out their mental facilities, their mental hospitals, and their prison systems all over Latin America, and they sent them up here. Just like what Castro did. Castro already did this back in the early 1980s, so they already had a template to work with. They already saw it happen in the past, and they saw that the United States welcomed all of them in with open arms. All the criminals and all of the loonies from the loony bin, they just all poured right into Miami, Florida, or into southern Florida. So anyway, 62 people, that's a hell of a lot more than the 2 that Democrats are talking about, which that's just what they constantly talk about. And Republicans don't really push back and mention, well, sometimes they do, to give them some credit, they do push back and say, look, you got 2 people on your side, both of whom were obstructing federal agents. By the way, one of them assaulted a federal agent. Actually, both of them did. One of them by spitting on one. And that's in comparison to the minimum of 62 Americans who are innocent Americans that were killed by illegal immigrants. And they were minding their own business. They were just going home, or they were taking their families out, or they were just, doing everyday things that Americans do. And they were killed by the dozens. Actually, really by the hundreds, if we're being real. Okay, so Eric Daugherty just in. Secretary Kristi Noem confirms Democrats are traitors because they have kept DHS shut down for weeks. We should nuke the filibuster and reopen it ourselves. And that's a comment from Eric Daugherty. And then, of course, it follows up with a bunch of quotes, which we're going to hear here in the video.
The latest Democrat-led shutdown of DHS is reckless, it's unnecessary, and it undermines the American national security, and it harms the men and women who work at DHS and their families. Despite the House passing a bipartisan, bicameral full-year DHS funding bill, it is Senate Democrats who've chosen not to fund the department and have held this department hostage. As a result, critical national security missions, including border security, immigration enforcement, aviation security, disaster response, cybersecurity, and the protection of critical infrastructure are all being strained. Our ability to provide for a safe and successful World Cup is being hindered as well. More than 100,000 dedicated DHS employees are once again being asked to work without pay for the 3rd time in just 5 months. At a time when we've produced the most secure border in history and removed nearly 3 million illegal aliens from our country, disrupting the department responsible for those gains is indefensible. I want to thank the men and women of the Department of Homeland Security for their professionalism, for their dedication, for their commitment to keeping America safe and continuing to show up and work even though they aren't being compensated for it. They've kept us safe and they have patience, and our success is only possible because of their service and sacrifices.
Okay, of course that was during her opening statement. And rolling to the next from Brianna Morello. Must-see Secretary Kristi Noem says Biden's DHS released hundreds of known and suspected terrorists into the country and DHS can't find them.
Of people on the terrorist watch list to come into this country. In 2023, 172. Do you know where those people are?
Of course not.
Not necessarily.
So we don't know where they are. They're here, but we don't know where they are.
No, of course we don't know where they are. It could be anywhere. Rapid Response 47, Secretary Noem on the historic success of DHS under 1 year of the president's leadership. 0 illegals released into the U.S. for 10 months straight. Nearly 3 million illegal aliens have left the U.S. so far. Lowest murder rate in 125 years, and fentanyl trafficking is down at 56% at the border, which I'm assuming that also includes out in the oceans, out in international waters.
Since the start of President Trump's second term, daily encounters along the southwest border declined by 96%. Compared to the Biden administration's daily average. We've reached the lowest levels ever recorded in U.S. Customs and Border Protection's history. In President Trump's first year, total Border Patrol apprehensions along the southwest border were less than the average of a single month under the Biden administration. For 10 straight months, the Border Patrol has released 0 illegal aliens into the interior of the United States. And in President Trump's historic first year back in office, nearly 3 million illegal aliens have left the United States as a result of the administration's enforcement efforts from following the law. That includes 2.2 million that have voluntarily left and returned back to their home countries, and more than 675,000 detainments and deportations. A majority of the aliens that were arrested by Immigration and Customs Enforcement have a criminal record and have been charged with or convicted of secondary crimes in addition to their initial crime of being in the United States illegally. During this period, ICE has arrested over 1,500 known and suspected terrorists, more than 7,700 known gang members,
Whoa.
many of them
That
were allowed to come into this country under the Biden administration. We have also reached the lowest murder rate in the last 125 years since that data was tracked. Under President Biden, more than 450,000 unaccompanied alien children went missing or were lost due to the dangerous open border policies that were embraced. Under President Trump, the Department of Homeland Security and the Department of Health and Human Services have already located over 145,000 of these children and returned them back to their families and back to people who care about them. And we will not stop until every single one of those children is found. Fentanyl trafficking at the southern border is down. It's been cut by over 56% because of that secure border and the enforcement actions that have been taken there. And that's compared to the same period of time in 2024. The Coast Guard has seized enough cocaine the past year to prevent quantities capable of killing more than 193 million Americans, and it's kept them off of our streets. In fact, total interdiction efforts under the Trump administration have prevented 1.7 billion lethal doses of drugs from killing our next generation of Americans. These results reflect the fact that we are enforcing the laws that Congress has passed.
Yep, and every bit of that, Democrats just absolutely hate it. She's firing off all those numbers that Department of Homeland Security has been successful at doing, and Democrats want to shut them down. You've got Democrats that want to abolish the Department of Homeland Security completely. So all of those statistics that she listed off would just essentially just completely evaporate. You know, they would just open up the floodgates, the drugs, everything would just come pouring in. It would become apocalyptic. It's exactly what the Democrats want. Homeland Security, allow us to finish these introductions. Senator Blumenthal. So let me just play the video first because they elaborate on what he says in this short video clip. So let's do this first.
Leo, Javier, and Miramar, would you please stand? These three individuals, Madam Secretary,
over here,
were arrested by your agency, Leonardo Garcia Venegas.
There you go.
Javier Ramirez and Miramar Martinez.
Okay, so they were arrested. Okay. And I have a feeling Homeland Security is going to tell us why, which, of course, Senator Blumenthal conveniently would leave out. And, of course, he's putting her on the spot, so she doesn't have the information. These are just 3 out of thousands who have been arrested for real, actual crimes that they had committed. So the first one, Leonardo Garcia Venegas, attempted to obstruct and prevent the lawful arrest of an illegal alien. He put himself between law enforcement and the subject they were attempting to arrest, and he refused to comply with numerous verbal commands. Miramar Martinez hit federal agents with her vehicle. She was armed with a semi-automatic weapon and has a history of doxing federal agents. Lovely. And then Javier Ramirez was arrested for obstructing law enforcement. Reminder, obstructing and assaulting law enforcement is a felony and a federal crime. And I'll even take it further. Obstructing federal agents can carry up to 8 years in prison per count, and assault on a federal law enforcement agent or a federal law enforcement officer can carry up to 20 years in federal prison. And of course, they're not arresting nearly enough of these people. I'd say for every one that they arrest, it seems like they're letting 100 of them go. And it's extremely frustrating watching all these riots happening. And the agents just, they tackle them, and then within 5 minutes, they're just letting them go. And then they leave. And it's extremely frustrating. From Jenny Tare, breaking, Noem testifies that the Biden administration paid traffickers to sponsor migrant kids who crossed the border all alone.
Alien children were lost by the Biden administration, not tracked. We've located about 145,000 of them, and we've done that through the investigative work of our Homeland Security Investigations team. They are phenomenal at the work that they do, and they specialize in child trafficking, sex trafficking, and finding individuals that would perpetuate that harm against our children. The one thing that has been challenging is that under the Biden administration, the government paid sponsors in HHS in order to host these children. And those sponsors, many times, we found instances where they trafficked these children themselves. So under that administration, we not only had children that were in this country as a part of a program, the government was paying individuals that were knowingly trafficking them and abusing them. That has stopped. We have gone through and found these children and put them back with their families when we have the opportunity to do so, and with loved ones that will care for them. And I would say that even in one case, we have other countries where we've been working with them to get their children back home, where we've been prevented returning these families back and helping them to be reunified by activist judges. But we will continue to work to ensure that these individuals and these children
because
that
they
were
want to
abused
keep
by
children
the
separated from
trafficking
their
over the border
families.
have the opportunity to
How
be
you like that?
brought back to their families and to their loved ones going forward.
Unreal, man. Unbelievable.
Children.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to do that. RNC Research, Democrats Sheldon White House quite literally voted to halt funding for FEMA, TSA, and the Coast Guard, also the Secret Service, also cybersecurity agencies, knowing ICE was already funded. Now he's lying and trying to convince you otherwise because he knows it was a disgusting and reckless thing to do. Yeah, and they just have to simply double down because that's all they got. That's all they have these days.
Let me start by noting that we have repeatedly said, our ranking member on the Senate Appropriations Committee, Senator Murray, has said that we are more than willing to fund TSA, more than willing to fund the Coast Guard, more than willing to fund FEMA.
This is blackmail, man. Straight up blackmail.
And that it is the administration that is holding those agencies hostage in order to extract additional funding for ICE and...
No, wrong, because ICE has already been funded, dude. Fucker. ICE was funded way back on July 4th of 2025. They've already secured their funding, something like $75 billion for the next, I think, 3 years. So that's completely wrong. I mean, it's just so crazy how they just blatantly lie right out in the open, right out in front of the entire country, just because they just count on the people watching are just low IQ, or they're just politically low IQ, and they just don't pay attention to politics on a daily basis.
CBP. That is our quite clearly stated position, and I just wanted to recognize that now.
Yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous. No, we don't like ICE arresting illegal immigrants. We want you to stop, so we shut down DHS, and the shutdown is your fault because you won't stop deporting illegals, which is the federal law, by the way. They're literally demanding a federal agency to stop abiding by the federal laws, and then they blame the Republicans for the shutdown because they just don't want ICE to be arresting illegal immigrants before. It's absolutely loony. Townhall.com, no, DHS did not deport a U.S. citizen and veteran. Se-Jun Park came to the U.S., committed a multitude of crimes, and was then issued an order of removal way back in 2010, so over 15 years ago. He overstayed his welcome and broke countless laws. Bye.
During a House Homeland Security Committee oversight hearing recently, Secretary Noem claimed that DHS had not deported veterans, not under this administration. And seconds later, Representative Magaziner presented via a video call Se-Jun Park, a veteran who earned a Purple Heart.
Veterans can be
But
deported.
was deported by Secretary Noem's DHS.
Yeah, they make it sound like that a veteran can't be deported. Yeah, people who are not ironclad U.S. citizens can serve in the service, and if they commit crimes, they can and are deported. It's happened before. I've already looked that up on the Swamp. It was about a month or two ago when this exact topic came up yet again, and I went up to Grok, and I showed the sources that it pulled from, and it was actually true that according to our federal laws, they can deport an immigrant, someone who is a non-citizen who serves in the U.S. military. So RNC Research, Secretary Noem torches Amy Klobuchar for smearing ICE officers who are arresting heinous criminal illegals that Democrats let into the country. Yeah, Democrats let all these people into the country. They did, under the Biden administration. And then they're screaming at Republicans for getting them out of our country. It is psychopathic. So, okay, so it's a quote. Let's just go straight to the video.
We talk about these situations like this that we are conducting, and you don't talk about the good work that they do to protect people from being victimized by people that are in this country that want to conduct violent crimes against them or take advantage of them. The laws need to apply to everyone, and we're out there enforcing the law.
I am a former prosecutor,
Context is
Ms. Noem,
incredibly important.
Have always
in every
worked
situation.
with our police well.
Okay, well, I kind of would have liked to have gotten a little more out of that RNC Research. Anyway, senators like Amy Klobuchar, Democrat senators, actually Democrat reps also, here on the X platform, they all have profiles on the X platform, and they're posting all throughout the day. It's all just like gaslighting and just like loony bin nonsense, and they get ratioed all the time. That, by ratio, I mean they get more comments than they get likes, which tends to be a ratio that typically signifies that anybody reading that post is very displeased to the point where they would rather just leave a comment rather than just simply ignoring it. But anyway, so from RNC Research, got another one, calls out, Secretary Noem calls out Biden and the Democrats for enriching cartels with their open border policies.
Over 30% of the young girls that crossed that border during that invasion were raped and brutally harmed by people along the way.
Probably
There's
even
nobody
higher
that
than
crossed
that.
that border, came in from Mexico, that didn't have to pay
Horrifying.
a cartel member to get into this country. Those cartels have been enriched and made sophisticated and
billions of dollars.
professionalized by the money that Joe Biden facilitated putting into their pockets by allowing that invasion to happen and funneling
quite
people
literally.
into the cartel's hands. I also would say that 4,000 people died during that invasion. When people were coming into this country,
And it was an
died
invasion.
because of the inhumane circumstances that were going on, from the heat that they were having to deal with,
Drowning.
from drowning in the
Yep.
river. It was not humane what we saw being facilitated by the Biden administration. So every day, the people at the Department of Homeland Security get up to defend this country and our borders and the citizens that live here.
Yeah, I could only imagine what Border Patrol was having to deal with during the Biden era down there on the border. They were probably coming across bodies every single day. I couldn't even imagine what they had to go through. Secretary Noem calls out Democrat Senator Dick Durbin for lying about crimes committed by illegal aliens. Let's have a look at this.
85% of the 400,000 immigrants that ICE arrested during President Trump's first term in office had no violent criminal record. The president said over and over at his rallies, "We're going after the worst of the worst."
Yeah, we are. If they commit any crimes, I think your average American would consider them among the worst of the worst. If you commit forgery, hell, if you fucking shoplift and you're an illegal immigrant, you should be kicked out of the country. And you're going to be hard-pressed to find a majority of Americans that would disagree with that.
The terrorists, the murderers, the rapists.
Yeah, we'll take all of them.
And then it turns out that
Get rid of
85%
them.
of the people you've gone after have no criminal history whatsoever. How do you explain that?
They do have a
Sir,
criminal
when you
history.
talk about violent crimes, what you're saying, the crimes that don't matter, that you aren't counting, are ones that affect American families every single day. You're not
Yeah.
counting
Stealing our money.
DUIs. You're not counting embezzlements. You're not counting theft. And you're not counting the other crimes against
Burglary.
people and drug trafficking and
Drug possession.
proliferating that. So if you don't count those as crimes, that
no,
these
they do.
individuals
Of course he's not.
and
They
count
impacting
them, and
families in this country.
They are counted, and they calculate
Those-
that
No, they're not.
14% of those that
Those
you
are not
arrested.
counted in
No,
your
they're not. They're not
14%.
counted.
If you were counting crimes that these
It's only murder.
individual illegal aliens in this country have committed, it would be well over 65 to 70% of the
It would be.
individuals that are detained today have those crimes on their record, besides the crime of being in this country
Going to back
illegally.
that up with some information for me?
Absolutely, I will.
Dude, it's all over the internet, man. That information is all over the place. And Homeland Security, they post that on the regular, and they've got data to back that up because they are the federal government. So they've got the data and the statistics backed up by the federal government to prove that. And for Dick Durbin to not know that, he knows that. He knows that damn well. That the violent crimes, the 15% that he's citing are like actual violent attempted murder or full-on murder, homicide. Those are the kind of crimes that 15% commit. But just like Secretary Kristi Noem said, it's over 70%. It's like 71, 72% of the illegal immigrants that they have caught, that Immigration and Customs Enforcement have caught so far, do have criminal records, or they're at least that they're accused. They haven't been convicted yet. That they're still going through the courts and so on. Which of course Democrats will say, well, they haven't been convicted of those crimes, so that means they didn't commit those crimes. You know, those games that they like to play. Eric Daugherty breaking: DHS Secretary Kristi Noem just put on a masterclass slapping down Democrat Senator Dick Durbin for ignoring federal alien crimes against Americans. He was visibly upset. Okay, so it sounds like we already saw this. We might have already seen this. Let me just at least give it a go.
And then it
Maybe there's
turns
some
out
of it
that
we didn't hear.
85% of the people you've gone after have no criminal history whatsoever.
Yeah, we did. We already saw that, so we'll just move on to Bill Milugin. Senator Dick Durbin presses DHS Secretary Kristi Noem right now, demanding to know why dozens of DACA recipients have been deported. What he left out is that in the letter he received from DHS on this topic, 241 of the 261, which is 92% of DACA recipients, were arrested by ICE. They had criminal histories. So there you go. Of course he's going to leave that out because it doesn't fit his narrative. Doesn't fit the Democrat narrative. Eric Daugherty, massive win. Supreme Court rules 6-3. We're moving on from Kristi Noem, by the way. They ruled 6-3 to strike down Gavin Newsom's California law that forcibly hid the transgender identity of children from their parents in schools. They are psychopaths in California. Parents have a right to raise their children according to those beliefs. California's policy violated that. Devastating blow to Gavin. This is huge. And what's Gavin Newsom going to do? He's just not going to say a word about it. They're just going to pretend it never even happened. If anybody presses him whenever he's given a Q&A or any kind of press conference, if somebody mentions it to him, he's just going to blow past it. He won't say a word about it. He'll just point to the next reporter and ask for the next question. That's just my wild guess.
Parents' rights in California. The U.S. Supreme Court has ruled 6-3 in favor of an emergency appeal to overturn a state policy.
Hey, you want to take a wild guess who voted against?
From notifying
the liberal
parents
justices,
if
of course.
their child asks to change pronouns.
Because they're activists.
Or identify as a different gender in class. The majority wrote this: parents with sincere religious beliefs about sex and gender have a right to raise their children according to those beliefs, and that California's policy violated that. A quick lightning round now. I'll start with you, Kayla, your thoughts.
Yeah, this was...
All right. Well, I would love to know what the dissent was from the liberal justices. How would they justify voting against that or deciding against it? I mean, I would love to know what those opinions would be, because it can't be anything beyond just absolute rabble. Okay, breaking 911. Trump meets with the German Chancellor, Friedrich Merz, in the Oval Office. We have a meeting with the man who's become a friend of mine. We'll obviously be talking a little bit about Iran. We're talking about some very big trade deals.
Thank you very much, everybody. We have a meeting with a man who's become a friend of mine, and we've known each other for a little while in some very interesting times. And we get along. Our countries get along very well. We have a great affinity for each other. And the Chancellor has been very well received in Germany. He's a very successful man, became the Chancellor of Germany, which is a big deal.
Yeah,
and
man,
he's doing
something like 80 million people live there.
In my opinion, a great job, very popular. And the relationship that we have in trade and everything else has been very strong. We've been able to do our deals, and it's been very strong. We'll obviously be talking a little bit about Iran today, and he's been helping us out. We've been very nice, actually. And that is coming along, as you see, very well. They have no Navy. It's been knocked out.
Yeah,
they have no Air Force. It's been knocked out.
Virtually all of them.
They have no air detection. That's been knocked out. Their radar has been knocked out. And just about everything's been knocked out. So we'll see how we do. But we're doing very well. We have a great military, and they're doing a fantastic job. So we'll be talking about that. And we're talking about some very big trade deals, and those I know will work out too. So I just want to say it's a great honor to have you at the Oval Office, the beautiful Oval Office, beautiful White House. It's a special place, even from your standpoint, and you have some very special places too. And I look forward to being with you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. I'm pretty sure that's all solid gold behind him too, isn't it? I think that's all solid gold that he's adorned in the Oval Office. Rapid response reporter, why are we seeing such unity around the world against Iran? I mean, come on, dude, that's kind of a stupid question. They're just evil. It's not the politics. It's their whole philosophy. It's terrible, where they kill 35,000 people. It's just a very evil ideology. And I don't know if it was Trump or if it was someone else in the Trump administration. They were trying to compare this Iranian conflict. I don't know if they were trying to make it a timeline issue with regard to Venezuela, how they were just going to make this a quick thing. But I couldn't help but think that these are very two different areas of the world. Whereas in Venezuela, the Maduro regime was pretty much just supported by their own greed and drugs and things like that. But over in Iran, we're talking like their religious ideology. So, I mean, when it comes to your religion, I mean, a lot of people are willing to die to defend their religion. So I don't think it's going to be as easy as just removing some of the top people and then we'll just be over and done with it. However, the whole idea that, at least my takeaway from the Iranian conflict, at least as of now, is that we obliterate their entire military. We try to get rid of as much of their government structure as humanly possible. And then the citizens, the people of Iran, take over their country. I mean, I'm sure it sounds a lot easier said than done, but I believe that's really the primary objective.
Thank you, Mr. President. We've seen countries around the world, many of whom don't usually work together, working with the United States on Iran. whether it's, Saudi Arabia working with the United States, Israel, Qatari shooting down Iranian aircraft, and we've also seen European countries step up. Why are we seeing, such unity around the world against Iran?
That's a great point. Look, they're just
they're evil.
Evil.
Yeah, because they're evil.
It's not the politics; it's their whole philosophy. It's their whole where they come from. It's terrible. Where they killed 35,000, I thought it was 32. Now it turns out it's much more than 35,000.
Oh, see, I thought it was 20.
People. And in
It's
some
way higher
cases,
than that.
using machine guns with people that have no weapon. They have no weapon, and they're being machine gunned. They're being
Yeah, even the Iranian government, they hired Iraqi mercenaries to come in during those protests that he's talking about in December and January. They hired a bunch of these mercenaries to come into the country, and they positioned them up on top of these high-rise buildings, and they were picking off people on the street with snipers, just one after the next.
sniped from buildings. They're hitting
There
the
you
people
go.
with snipers right through the eyes.
Yeah, they were from Iraq.
It's just a very
freaking
evil ideology.
Islamist mercenaries.
And nobody's really seen anything like it. As I said, even the fact that they've attacked all of their neighbors, and the neighbors weren't attacking. They thought they'd maybe sit it out or what.
Oh, that was a massive blunder by Iran.
Hit Qatar.
They
They've hit
did.
UAE.
Saudi Arabia.
They've hit Saudi Arabia. They've hit Oman.
They hit 11 countries.
They were helping us negotiate. They got hit. Everybody got hit.
Yeah, dude, talk about a miscalculation by Iran. They really fucked up with that because all of those countries that they hit took it personally. Like, I think we're talking in the first day of the conflict over the course of Saturday. They sent missiles into, I believe it's 11 countries in total, maybe 9, but I'm pretty sure it was 11 countries that Iran had bombed. And all of those countries, they took it quite personally. They're like, wait a minute, how dare you bomb us? We're just in the region. What are you bombing us for? So Saudi Arabia has already, I don't think that they've officially declared war against Iran, but Saudi Arabia already said that they're entering the conflict in support of the U.S. and Israel.
Because they're evil and they're bad. It's a bad seed, and somebody had to do it. And it should have been done sometime during a 47-year period because so much death
probably immediately
has been
after.
caused by them.
Probably
So
back
much
in their
unbelievable
1980.
death.
That's when it should have happened.
From Germany, too. Germany's been hit. Everybody's been hit by them. It's an evil ideology. And I've never been, look, I've done a lot of good things. So many people are saying, thank you, thank you, thank you. You see it in the streets of Los Angeles.
Oh, it's
They
unreal.
have thousands of people. I saw it the other day, pictures of Donald Trump. And
Yeah,
I'm
they had this
looking, I'm on the
massive banner.
phone,
I showed it on the
talking
swamp
to you,
yesterday.
And I'm looking, and I see my picture. I say, oh, no, it's another, protest. I see
Nope.
and then I started
favorite.
saying, boy, they were very friendly people. And then I saw a woman hugging the picture of me. I said, what's going on? And it turned out to be these are Iranian people that live in the United
Americans.
States. Thousands and thousands. You saw the rallies.
There was well
and
over
in
1,000.
New York, too. They
There was
had
a lot
big rally by
in LA.
pictures all over the place. The fact is that people are happy what we did.
Yeah, and the same with Washington, D.C., New York City. There were this huge crowd of people just chanting, thank you, Trump, thank you, Trump. And we'll probably end up getting to this. The country of Spain, they effectively kicked out our military from our bases that are in Spain. I think we have 2 of them, maybe we have more than that. Oh, yeah. Okay, so yeah, he's going to bring this up in this video because Spain said that we can't be using our bases in the country of Spain with regard to the conflict against Iran. So we moved our planes over to Germany, to the Ramstein base, and then there's a couple others that I believe that we moved ours to, which actually just happens to be good timing that the Chancellor of Germany happened to show up. So I'm sure that President Trump's going to thank him in person for that. So anyway, President Trump cuts off trade with Spain after government says bases cannot be used for Iran attacks. We're going to cut off all trade with Spain. We don't want anything to do with Spain. And from what I've heard, there's even calls of Spain even being kicked out of NATO. They're even talking about pulling them from NATO after this decision because the United States, I mean, we're like the principal member of NATO. I mean, we basically fund damn near the whole thing over the years. I mean, I know literally we haven't, but I know we funded the lion's share of it. And for Spain to not allow us to use their base, I mean, dude, NATO countries are supposed to be in an alliance, especially militarily. So let's give this a watch.
Some of the European, like Spain, has been terrible. In fact, I told Scott to cut off all dealings with Spain. Spain, first of all, It started when every European nation, at my request, paid 5%, which they should be doing.
Yeah, all
and
along.
everybody was enthusiastic about it.
For
Germany,
NATO.
everybody. And Spain didn't do it. And now
Yeah, they're
Spain
still behind on their payments.
actually said that we can't use their bases, and that's all right. We don't want to. We could use their base if we want. We could just fly in and use it. Nobody's going to tell us not
I mean,
to
he's
use
right.
it, but we don't have to. But they were unfriendly, and so
See,
I
I
told
thought they
them,
were our
we
bases,
don't want
but in their
Spain
country.
has absolutely nothing that we need other than great people. They have great people, but they don't have great leadership. And as you know, they were the only country that in NATO would not agree to go up to 5%. I don't think they would have agreed to go up to anything. They wanted to keep it at 2%, and they don't pay the 2%.
No, they don't.
So we're
Not
going to
historically.
cut
They
off
did
all
last
trade
year.
with Spain. We don't want anything to do with Spain.
Yeah, supposedly they made the payment that was due last year and maybe the year before, but historically speaking, they're still pretty far behind in making their payments to NATO. But yeah, I thought those were our bases that we were using there, but no. But as far as I understand, the government in Spain right now is left-leaning, if not full-on left-wing. I don't know anything about Spain politics. It's hard enough keeping up with American politics. So breaking 911, did Israel force your hand to launch these strikes against Iran? That's a question that Marco Rubio kept getting asked. And I don't know if I'm going to get to Marco Rubio today. Beyond what we already saw at the very beginning, I think maybe I will. We'll just have to wait and see. So anyway, he gives his answer to that. So we'll just take a look at this.
Mr. President, did Israel force your hand to launch these strikes against Iran? Did Netanyahu pull the United States into this war?
No, I might have forced their hand.
Oh, wow.
You see,
Might have been
we
the
were
opposite.
having negotiations with these lunatics, and it was my
right.
opinion that they were going to attack first. They were going to attack. If we didn't do it, they were going to attack first. I felt strongly about that. And we have great negotiators, great people that do this very successfully.
I think Trump's right.
And have done it all their lives very
I
successfully.
think we may have
And,
forced Iran into it.
based
Or
on the
not
way
Iran,
the
Israel.
negotiation was going, I think they were going to attack first. And I didn't want that to happen. So if anything, I might have forced Israel's hand. But Israel was ready, and we were ready, and we've had a very, very powerful impact.
Yeah, and the stars seem to align just perfectly because the supreme leader of Iran was seen entering a building with a bunch of other high-level people, and the time was right. That's why we attacked in broad daylight. Typically, we would have attacked at night, but we decided to go in broad daylight because we knew exactly where he was, and we wanted to take him out. And that's when we took out like 40, or I think the number might be approaching 60 by now, of the leaders in Iran that we've taken out. But as far as whether if Israel made us do it or we made them do it, we've been trying to be diplomatic with Iran ever since the whole Midnight Hammer situation, where we took out their nuclear facilities. I think that was like back in June of last year. It was over the summer of last year, and we've been trying to establish talks for a while. And then from what I understand, we did establish talks with them for a period of months. And I guess they just kept playing around and not wanting to come to the plate, not wanting to play ball. And so we have been talking with them for a while. So I think Trump's right. If anything, we pulled Israel into the conflict as opposed to the other way around, just because we've been trying to talk with Iran for a period of time. So we got another one from President Trump. I thought we were going to have a situation where they were going to be attacked. A lot of these missiles that are hitting, those are stationary. Those were aimed there for a long period of time at these other countries. Yeah, the other ones in the region.
Well, because it happened all very quickly. We thought, and I thought maybe more so than most, I could ask Marco, but I thought we were going to have a situation where we were going to be attacked. They were getting ready to attack Israel. They were getting ready to attack others. You're seeing that right now.
We have a lot of bases in the
those
region, too.
Missiles that are hitting in, those are stationary. Those were aimed there for a long period of time at these other countries. So I think I was right about that. We attacked first. And if we didn't, it could have been, look, we're really decimating them. They're being decimated. And if we didn't, and by the way, we have massive amounts of ammunition. We have the high end. A lot of it was given away stupidly by Biden, very stupidly, for free. And I'm all for Ukraine,
free,
but they
man.
gave away a lot.
This is ridiculous.
As you know, when I give
It's
away
your tax money.
ammunition,
It's my money.
everybody pays for it. The European Union's paying for it. Then they can do what they want with it, but they are giving it, let's say, to Ukraine, and it's okay. But we gave away a lot of high end, but we have plenty. But we have unlimited middle and upper ammunition, which is really what we're using in this war.
Unlimited.
And we have really an unlimited supply. We also have a lot of the very high-end stored in different countries throughout the world.
God bless America.
We're literally storing it there, which is actually something that I insisted on in my first term. I rebuilt the military in my first term. The military is great. Unbelievable amount of ammunition or munitions,
Firepower.
as they say, we've given away to, the Wall Street Journal incorrectly covered the story when they said that it was given away to the Middle East. Not to the Middle East, it was given away to Ukraine. Very little was given to the Middle East. The Middle East would buy a lot, and some of the nations, because they're rich, they have a lot, but it was given away to Ukraine. And it just should have been done. Look, it's a war that should have never happened.
$30 billion.
If I were president, that war would have never happened. But we have a tremendous amount of munitions, ammunition at the upper level, middle and upper level, all of which is really powerful stuff.
Well, look, man, that's good to hear. It's good to hear. I heard somewhere that we were going down to South Korea. We were scooping up some ammunition. I don't know what that's about. I don't know if maybe it was just a very specific type of ammunition that we were needing for a particular mission or something. I don't know. It was something that I read in passing. I've read hundreds of things over the last several days with regard to the Iran conflict. It's really hard to make heads or tails of a lot of things, especially on the X platform. You really have to take everything with a grain of salt, unless it either has the gold badge or if it's got the gray badge. Let's see, where do we got a gray one? Yeah, here we go. Rapid response. That's one of the gray badges, which they consider that it's not considered. It is a government entity. And so that's what I try to stick to for the most part whenever I do the swamp. Okay, so we got through that one. And wait, did I miss that one? Okay, yeah, I think I missed that one. Let me just double check. Something had to be done. All right. See, I missed my place. Okay. All right, we're here. We're good.
Something had to be done. And it's been 47 years. They've been killing people all over the world for a long time. They were the kings and fathers of the roadside bomb. Soleimani, we killed him last term. If we didn't, I think it might be a different story today. They would have been much stronger and smarter than they are. But they did the roadside bombs. 95% of the people lost their legs, arms, had their face wiped out, just wiped out. I've seen some young people that it's so sad to watch. And that was almost all, 95% comes from Iran and with Soleimani. Soleimani loved it, his favorite weapon. He loved the roadside bomb. And when you see people walking around with no legs and no arms and a face that's been blown to hell, these people, what they have to go and the way they have to live, this is Iran. When you look at the barracks, the famous barracks, when you look at the hostages, when you look at a lot of hostages, when you look at all of the problems, they were really a purveyor of terror all over the world for many, many years. And it's something that had to be done, And I believe that if we didn't, because I see where Congress, if I didn't do this, guys like Schumer, who are losers, the Democrats, they're losers. That's why they're not here. Guys like Schumer would say, well, you should have done this. In other words, if I did it, it's no good. If I didn't do it, they would have said the opposite, that you should have done this. But most people feel, I'll tell you what, I have never had more compliments on something I did. People felt it's something that had to be done. So if we have a little high oil prices for a little while, but as soon as this ends, those prices are going to drop, I believe, lower than even before.
Well, plus we've got Venezuela now. Venezuela's getting ready to enter the market, and they've got the largest oil reserves on Earth. So that should certainly help. Plus, it was either Trump or it might have been Secretary Rubio. It actually could have been Secretary of War Pete Hegseth. Somebody announced that pretty soon we're going to start helping out large oil tankers get through the Strait of Hormuz. The U.S. military is going to be escorting oil tankers through the Strait of Hormuz and just provide military support so none of those tankers get hit. And that's a primary reason. So the gas prices don't get out of control, because 20% of all the world's oil and liquid natural gas goes right through the Strait of Hormuz, which is right up against Iran. And Iran had already made the statement on Saturday that they are closing the Strait of Hormuz. Anybody who passes through it, we're going to blow up your ship. And so for the time being, nobody wants to go through the Strait of Hormuz. I mean, can't blame them From Breaking 911 again, reporter, why are we seeing such unity around the world against Iran? I think we already got that. Oh, no, okay. No, I don't think we did see this, actually.
Thank you, Mr. President. We've seen countries around the world, many of whom don't usually work together, working with the United States on Iran, whether it's, Saudi Arabia, we're
Awesome.
right with the United States.
I think the Abraham
Israel,
Accords play a part in that, too.
Qatari shooting down Iranian aircraft, and we've also seen European countries step up. Why are we seeing, such unity around the world against Iran?
That's
an
a
evil
great
regime.
point. Look, they're just evil. They're, it's not the politics, it's their whole philosophy, it's their whole, where they come from. It's terrible. Where they killed 35,000, I thought it was 32, now it turns out it's much more than 35.
Okay, yeah, I actually do. I think we did actually see that, matter of fact. Trump on the Iranian regime, these people are crazy, and if they had a nuclear weapon, they would have used it.
They're crazy. Just like the people on my right during the State of the Union. I looked at them, I said, you're crazy? These people are crazy. And if they had a nuclear weapon, they would have used it. They're crazy.
Yeah, he definitely remembered saying that. That was an iconic moment during the State of the Union address. These people are crazy. Okay, so Trump on the Iranian regime, they're sick people, they're mentally ill, sick people, they're angry, they're crazy, they're sick.
A big factor in this world and future factor is what we're doing right now with Iran. If we don't stop them, or if we didn't stop them, or if we didn't start, they've been decimated. But if we didn't do what we're doing right now, you would have had a nuclear war, and they would have taken out many countries. Because you know what? They're sick people. They're mentally ill, sick people. They're angry. They're crazy. They're sick.
Look, and I've said this before, and nobody's ever brought up this issue. The topic of the potential nuclear weapon that Iran may end up with if they successfully built a nuclear weapon. I don't think we're talking a 30 megaton thermonuclear weapon. We're not talking Tsar Bomba from Russia, 50 megatons. I think realistically, we'd probably be talking somewhere in the neighborhood of 10, maybe 15 kilotons. There's a 1,000 kilotons is a megaton. So pretty small, still extremely dangerous. It could still take out a large part of a city. There's no doubt about that. I mean, you definitely don't want to downplay a 10 kiloton nuclear weapon by any means. But as far as the ability to destroy, massive metropolitan areas, potentially an entire country being obliterated, I don't think that they would have actually gotten to that level. I mean, that's just me, just from a personal point of view, just my own opinion, because Pakistan, for instance, it's estimated their most powerful nuclear weapon that they have, because Pakistan, they have nuclear weapons, it's around the neighborhood of 15 kilotons. And India, their largest yield for their nuclear weapons is somewhere around 100 kilotons. So we're not even talking in the term of megatons, which I'd have to go back and reread it again. Castle Bravo, the United States, where we detonated our largest nuclear weapon that we had ever detonated. I think was it 30 megatons or maybe 20 megatons. It was an extraordinary, absolutely devastating nuclear weapon. They didn't intend on it to be anywhere near that large. I think they expected it to be like 5 megatons, but it turned out to be like 8 times more than that. And then, of course, there was Tsar Bomba with Russia, and Soviet Union at the time, it was 50 megatons. All right, so anyway, now Germany's MERS supports U.S. embargoing Spain, claims it's to convince them to increase NATO spending. Well, that's a good way to look at it, I guess.
We are trying to convince Spain to catch up with the 3% or 3.5%, which we agreed on in NATO. And as the President said, it's correct. Spain is the only one who is not willing to accept that. And we are trying to convince them that this is a part of our common security, that we all have to comply with this numbers, and this is 3.5 for military and another 1.5 for our military infrastructure. So Spain has to comply with that.
Well, and look, one of the problems that we would probably have with regard to possibly kicking Spain out of NATO is that we're not going to be able to physically remove them from Europe. So if something crazy were to happen, some World War III nuclear war situation were to break out, they're still going to be inside the umbrella of NATO, whether if we kick them out or not. So still, that's no excuse for them to say, well, you know what, we're just going to pay whatever we want to pay, because like it or not, we're still going to be here in Europe. So we are going to get to Secretary Rubio. I forgot that he did do the press conference before he went into the committee hearing. And he says, we have identified and continue to identify charter flights, military flight options, and expanded commercial flight options. Here's the message I want to deliver to Americans who are in the Middle East and in need of assistance. So what he's basically saying is that the military, they're putting together flights to get Americans out of the Middle East, because I believe, again, it's 11 countries, if I'm not mistaken, that we have not shut down, but we have highly, highly recommended Americans to leave the entire Middle East. No matter where you are, it's highly advised that you leave. And if you can't afford to leave for any reason, he gives a phone number, which CNN might actually show on the screen. I showed the same phone number. Oh, yeah, here we go. This should be it right here. Here, let me just show the image if I can get it up. Yeah, here we go. So Americans in the Middle East who need consular assistance can call the U.S. Department of State 24/7 at 202-501-4444. And they also have the other, like, step.state.gov you can enroll in to receive latest updates from the embassy, and also on social media at travel.gov. So there's steps for that. But they want all Americans to get out of the Middle East, like right now, as soon as possible, to the point where they're offering military flights for no fee, obviously. I mean, like, the military is not going to charge you an airplane ticket or anything like that. Okay, so let's give this a watch.
We have identified and continue to identify charter flights, military flight options, and expanded commercial flight options, meaning working with the airlines to send bigger airplanes with more seats, and the combination of those three things. The impediment we're facing now, in many cases, we've had a couple instances in which we have planes in the air and on the way, and unfortunately the airspace gets closed and they have to turn back around, so we're working through those challenges. Here's the message I want to deliver Americans who are in the Middle East and in need of assistance. It is very important, and I ask this of the networks as well, it is important for you to please put both the website and the phone numbers on your screens, because we need people, we need to know where you are. We need to have contact information for Americans that need assistance. They have to register with us, because as these options begin to open up, and as they open up, we have to be able to call you, we have to be able to reach you, we have to be able to know where you're staying, so we can get this information to you and coordinate appropriately. And it'll be a variety of methods: charter flights, military flights and transports, expanded commercial opportunities, and in some cases land routes that will allow them to go to neighboring countries who might have open airports at that point. So it's a lot of different things here that need to happen in order to move people, but it all starts by knowing that you're there. It all starts by knowing that where you are and how we can get a hold of you. So I'm asking the networks and all of the media outlets, please publicize the two phone numbers that we've put out, as well as the website, so people can contact us and register. We've had, thousands of people call already. As I said, we've identified almost 1,600 that are requesting assistance with departure, but we need you to please be able to identify that.
Yeah, of course, if Biden were still running the show, they would just open up all the cargo planes. Anybody, I don't care if you're an American or not, anybody can just come on in. The more the merrier. Just pile them all in to the point where they're just brimming with people, hanging off the freaking landing gear, falling out of the airplane, like what happened in Afghanistan, of course. All right, so somebody asked me a question yesterday, did we go in because of Israel? And I said, no, I told you this had to happen anyway, and it goes on from there.
You told us that Israel was going to strike Iran, and that's why we needed to get involved. Today, the president said that Iran was going to get
Yeah, your statement is false, so that's not what I was asked very specifically. Were you there yesterday?
Yes, I asked
Okay. No, were you the one that, because somebody asked me a question yesterday, did we go in because of Israel? And I said, you asked me that follow-up, and I said, no. I told you this had to happen anyway. The president made a decision, and the decision he made was that Iran was not going to be allowed to hide behind its ballistic missile program, that Iran was not going to be allowed to hide behind its ability to conduct these attacks. That decision had been made. The president systematically made a decision to systematically destroy this terroristic capability that they had, and we carried that out. I was very clear in that answer. This was a question of timing, of why this had to happen as a joint operation, not the question of the intent. Once the president made a decision that negotiations were not going to work, that they were playing us on the negotiations, and that this was a threat that was untenable, the decision was made to strike them. That's what I said yesterday, and you guys need to play it. If you're going to play these statements, you need to play the whole statement, not clip it to reach a narrative that you want to do. All right?
Yeah, exactly. Play the whole thing. Don't just play 5 seconds of it. If you're going to ask me a question, at least play my entire answer on your show or on your TV, because otherwise, why the hell would you even ask me a question in the first place? Well, it's because they want to craft a narrative that's probably not even based in reality. Our objectives remain as they've been identified from the beginning. Iran can never have a nuclear weapon, and we will not allow Iran to hide behind the immunity of a massive short-term ballistic missile inventory.
With an update, I will obviously refer you to the Department of War. Suffice it to say that our objectives remain as they've been identified from the beginning and by the president laid out clearly yesterday. Iran can never have a nuclear weapon, and we will now not allow Iran to hide behind the immunity of a massive short-term ballistic missile inventory or the ability to make them or launch them. And so CENTCOM, in a joint operations, is carrying out a systematic destruction of their missile belt, destruction of their launchers, and destruction of their ability to make these, as well as the destruction of their Navy. From what I've been told by the Department of War, everything is on or ahead of schedule and proceeding on these objectives. We have every confidence in the world that these objectives will be achieved.
All right, very good. Still on schedule, if not ahead of schedule. We're going to unleash Chang on these people in the next few hours and days. Not sure what Chang means. I'm sure, I don't know, maybe he's going to get into that. I don't know. You're going to really begin to perceive a change in the scope and intensity of these attacks as, frankly, the two most powerful air forces in the world take apart this terroristic regime.
I said this yesterday, and I repeat, what's about to, you're about to see, we're going to unleash Chang on these people in the next few hours and days. You're going to really begin to perceive a change in the scope and in the intensity of these attacks.
Fury,
as, frankly, the two most powerful air forces in the world take apart this terroristic regime and defang it and take away its ability to threaten its neighbors or hide behind a zone of immunity that allows them to develop their nuclear ambitions. This terroristic, radical, cleric-led regime cannot be ever allowed to have nuclear weapons. We saw what they were willing to do to their own people. They were willing to slaughter their own people in the streets. Imagine what they would do to us.
Tens of thousands.
Imagine what they would do to others. Under President Trump, that will never, ever happen.
Yep, by the tens of thousands. Also, how many was it? 800 that they were going to hang after they had regained control of the country after the protests from a month or two ago. I mean, that was the number that they were talking about hanging. Almost 1,000 people they were going to hang because they were protesting. That's why they were going to hang them. Oh, well, here you go. Maybe you're not familiar with this either. Chang refers to a mythical, fierce, conservative warrior, a persona created by Jeb Bush to describe a determined, principled political fighter often associated with Marco Rubio. The phrase unleash Chang means to deploy a relentless political or ideological force to attack opponents or forcefully advance conservative principles. Well, there you go, unleashing Chang. The concept was created by Jeb Bush, who presented a sword to Marco Rubio in 2006, the New York Times reported. So described as a mystical warrior who believes in entrepreneurial capitalism and conservative moral values. That's kind of hilarious. So, but I figured it meant something a lot more serious than that because Marco Rubio, he's quite serious these days. Okay, so let's head to the next. This weekend presented a unique opportunity to take joint action against this threat. We wanted this to have maximum success.
There's a general question of why the president gave the green light, and then there's a question of why did it have to happen this weekend? Are you saying it had to happen this weekend because of that Israeli action?
No, this weekend presented a unique opportunity to take joint action against this threat. And we wanted this to have maximum success. We want this operation to be successful at achieving its objectives. I'll repeat the objectives. The president laid them out yesterday. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. It cannot have, and therefore it cannot have the things it was hiding behind to have a nuclear weapons program. What are those things? Number one, we are going to destroy their missiles and their missile launchers. We are going to destroy their capability to make these missiles and these launchers, and we are going to destroy their Navy. Those are the objectives, and this weekend acting at this time gave us the highest probability of success in achieving those objectives, and as the Department of War will brief you, we are on or ahead of schedule to do that.
Well, and of course, also the Supreme Leader was meeting for breakfast with his top fellow leaders, and that presented the absolute perfect time for them to strike. Surprised he didn't actually mention that. From what I have seen, that was the reason why they struck not only on Saturday, but they decided to strike in broad daylight because they wanted to take out the Supreme Leader. From the Department of State, Secretary Rubio, if we didn't hit Iran now, a year from now, no one would be able to touch them and they could do whatever they want.
Iran cannot have these missiles, cannot have these drones, cannot threaten the world. The president said this
I know
is
we've
the
heard that a
weakest
billion
they've ever been.
times,
If we don't hit
but the
them
mainstream
now,
media, they
a
just
year
they
from
just
now,
won't hear
a
it.
year and a half from now, no one will be able to touch them.
You gotta hit them
and
with
they'll
the
be able to do
sledgehammer.
whatever they want.
No nuclear
And
weapons.
He made a decision to go, and he made a decision to go in a joint operation because it gave us the highest chance of success, and he made a decision to go first because he concluded that we were not going to get hit first. We were not going to absorb a blow from them. We were going to go first. He was not going to run the risk that they could attack us before we could hit them because in addition to costing lives, it would undermine the effectiveness of our operation.
Well, and it would seem that the majority of the world is fully in support of our action. Breaking, Senator John Fetterman. So we're going to move on from Secretary Rubio. Senator Fetterman says loud and proud he's the only Democrat senator who will vote against the coming war powers vote that will try to rein in President Trump's Iran strikes. I'd be the only Democrat to vote against that. I don't understand. It's again, something that I read earlier today. Apparently, President Trump could veto this. I guess that there's not going to be enough support to essentially override President Trump's veto with regard to these war powers. Pretty much, they're not going to. Congress isn't going to be able to stop this action, and it would be essentially suicidal to do that, wouldn't it? I mean, it would be absolutely ridiculous and insane for us to just immediately stop what we're doing and then just pack up and leave, and then that's it. I mean, that's what Democrats want. That's exactly what they want. They want that to happen.
Yeah, as far as I know, I think I would be the only Democrat to vote it against that. And I just don't understand where I'm at. So, as far as I know, every single senator says.
There you go. If you can read it, it's kind of small. These are the countries that Iran struck: Oman, the United Arab Emirates, Qatar, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Iraq, Syria, Cyprus, Lebanon. Actually, I don't know if Lebanon, because it's a different. No, Lebanon doesn't count. They're a part of Iran, at least. That's what. No, well, anyway, Israel and Jordan. So let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So yeah, it is 11.
We must never allow Iran to acquire a nuclear facility and a weapon. And I think we all agree on that. Why can't you just acknowledge, hey, that's really happened now? Then now they can't acquire those anymore. Why can't we just acknowledge that was a good thing and that the world's better now and more safe after what's happened? So if that requires me as a Democrat to just condemn those kinds of things, I think we've all been saying that we want to make sure that they can never make Iranian a nuclear power.
The president says they're only doing it because...
Okay, well, it obviously looks like Beirut was hit again. There's some smoke, something smoldering in Beirut, and this was earlier today. Justin, Israel has struck the Supreme Council gathering where top Iranians were meeting to choose the next supreme leader, according to Fox News' Trey Yinst. Yinst then showed the cameras a location outside of Tel Aviv, which suffered a cluster munition impact. Israel just targeted the meeting in Tehran, where what's left of the leadership was gathering to choose a new supreme leader. So I'm not 100% sure if this is with regard to their third attempt to put in a new leader. Well, technically, I guess their second attempt, because the first supreme leader was killed. Then they appointed a new supreme leader, and he was killed just hours after they appointed him. And it appears that they did it again, and then they were bombed yet again. At least that's
I do want to just start with some breaking news here before I show you the scene of one of these cluster munition impacts just outside of Tel Aviv. But I'm told by a senior Israeli official that the Israelis just struck the Supreme Council gathering where the Iranians were meeting to choose a new supreme leader.
Oh, so that did happen
This
today.
is a significant development,
Wow.
and again speaks to the Israeli intelligence about this war. They
So
just
they're gonna elect
targeted
another one, and
the
they got hit
meeting
again.
in Tehran where what's left of the
Maybe it's a
leadership
message
was
from
gathering to choose a new supreme leader. The Iranians are continuing their attacks against Israel. Right now, we are in the community of Bnei Brak. It's a religious community outside of Tel Aviv. And you can see where the police and first responders say part of a cluster munition that was attached to the warhead of a ballistic missile slammed into this apartment block. 7 people were wounded, 1 woman moderately. And I want to just show you the scene here in Bnei Brak. You can see the amount of destruction behind me. There is debris and rubble all over this community. And again, police and first responders say it's a miracle that no one was killed. People were home at the time, and this entire area is filled with children because the Israelis are celebrating the holiday of Purim. And so just a remarkable scene here. You can see that all of these kids are dressed up for Purim. This is considered one of the most joyful holidays in Judaism. It commemorates the events of the Book of Esther, and it is when the Jews of ancient Persia were saved by a plot to destroy them. And so this is a holiday here where people dress up in costumes and they celebrate, and this whole neighborhood is filled with families and children, and thankfully none of them were seriously injured or killed by this missile attack. But this came, as you saw live on Fox, in a large barrage launched from the Iranian regime. And one of those cluster munitions exploded, and there is damage not just to this building, but this entire area because it rained down on the civilian population below.
Well, that's the Islamic Republic of Iran for you, the state sponsor of terrorism. Of course, they're going to be targeting innocent civilians. Laura Loomer, Grand Ayatollah al-Haderi, just declared jihad on the United States and Israel. Deport all Muslims from America. And can't read it. Not sure what it says, but if you happen to be able to read that, then there you go. I guess you could pause and read it for yourself. And move on to Eric Doherty. Just in, Iran's Mahrabad International Airport is going up in smoke after being struck in Tehran. Major FAFO is playing out by the hour at this point. Iran is getting clobbered. Massive fire. Yeah, that's a hell of a strike. Hit the international airport in, what was that, in Tehran? Was that in Tehran? Yeah, it was the airport in Tehran. Okay, Eric Doherty, just in. Iran is getting pummeled right now. Israel has bombed Iran's Islamic experts while they were selecting a new supreme leader. Israel is also now launching strikes on Beirut. It's a losing battle for Iran. It's getting worse every day, and this was about 11 hours ago as of this recording. Let's take a look at this from Fox News.
Where the Iran-backed Lebanese militant group Hezbollah has gotten directly involved in the fight. Over the past 24 hours, they've been launching rockets over the border into northern Israeli communities, including the city of Haifa along the Mediterranean Sea. The Israelis are responding with airstrikes targeting the Lebanese capital of Beirut, specifically the Dahya neighborhood. This is a Hezbollah stronghold and an area where previously the former leader of Hezbollah, Hassan Nasrallah, before he was taken out, was located. And so a lot of developments here. The Israelis looking north to this new incoming fire and also looking east where they are still striking.
All right, on to the next. From Modernity, watch Israel neutralizes Hezbollah missiles with a game-changing iron beam. Modernity.news. Okay, so I'll link that if you want to take a look at that. Able to neutralize incoming projectiles for only a few dollars per shot. Really? Actually, here, I'll go ahead and open it because that's not a video. It's actually just a direct link to the article. So Hezbollah opened a new front. Let's see. Let me size this up first. Okay, here we go. Is that... Yeah, it's probably a little too big. There we go. So Hezbollah opened a new front in the broadening U.S.-Israeli war with Iran overnight, launching a barrage of missiles and kamikaze drone swarms at an Israeli military base in northern Israel. Footage of one of those missile launches posted on X by the Israeli Public Broadcasting Corporation, IPBC, shows what appears to be some of those Hezbollah missiles prematurely exploding moments after launch. IPBC explained that the apparent misfires were due to the interception of the rocket from Lebanon carried out using the Iron Beam laser system. And it looks like we've got a video of it right here. Holy shit, man, that's crazy. Wow. All right. Yeah, man, some of the weaponry that exists out there is just nuts. It's absolutely crazy. We reported last fall that Israel Defense Forces rolled out its new high-powered laser defense system known as the Iron Beam. The laser-based air defense system was developed by Rafael and built to complement the Iron Dome missile defense shield. Instead of launching expensive interceptor missiles, it uses a high-energy laser to destroy short-range threats such as rockets, mortar rounds, and drones. The footage likely shows the 100-kilowatt class Iron Beam in action, able to neutralize incoming projectiles for only a few dollars per shot, versus roughly $100,000 for a traditional interceptor rocket. Man, that's money well saved. 11 Patriots cost $44 million. They downed a $250,000 Iranian missile. The math is brutal. Video shows intercepts over Haifa as Israel counters more waves. Let's see what we got here. Wow, man, that's nuts. Oh man, one got through.
Good.
Man, that is crazy. Yeah, it looks like that's it. Okay. Holy moly. Yeah, it just got to be terrifying to live there. One of the major problems for U.S. and Israeli forces is that the cost per counter missile and drone is extraordinarily expensive and uneconomical if the war dragged on for a prolonged period of time. War stocks jump. These firms, okay, yeah, that's just a link or related, but there is a big caveat per the Times of Israel. The main downside of the laser system is that it does not function well in low visibility, including heavy cloud cover or other inclement weather. Well, look, I'm sure it's the Middle East, dude. I'm sure they don't get a whole hell of a lot of cloud cover out there. But maybe they do. I don't know. I mean, what do I know? I've never been in the Middle East. Breaking news. What was left of the Islamic regime in Iran was meeting to choose a new supreme leader, but was instantly eliminated by Israeli strikes. I believe we already saw this, though.
Of one of these cluster munition impacts just outside of Tel Aviv.
Yeah, we basically already got that one. All right, so ACYN, CNN, a strike on the U.S. Embassy in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, just moments ago by 2 suspected Iranian drones. Okay, so that was yesterday. Let's see.
Welcome back to the special edition of Out Front, War with Iran. And we have more breaking news this hour in this intense night of strikes. A strike on the U.S. Embassy in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, just moments ago by 2 suspected Iranian drones. Obviously, Riyadh in the center of Saudi Arabia, far, far away from Iran, a lot of open desert there to go past, but that is what's happened. We do not have any reports at this moment yet of any injuries, but it comes as the U.S. Embassy in Riyadh is telling all American citizens in Saudi Arabia to shelter in place immediately. And that alert is going out just right now as I'm speaking, signaling a potential fast-moving threat unfolding right now in Saudi Arabia.
Yep, not good. I remember talking about this on the Swamp last night. And we've got this from, oh, okay, all right. That's what happened. So this was a video from last night because that's President Trump's speech from yesterday. So that was all on the Swamp yesterday. So it opened up this show more posts. I don't know why it did that. It never does that. That was weird. Okay, Eric Daugherty, boom. Scott Jennings' mic drops a CNN panel of liberals whining about Iran. That's the one that we were supposed to get to next. These butchers deserve to die. Let's have a look at this. This ought to be very entertaining.
Dropping on the nuclear program and destroying them last year didn't help move forward those objectives of deterring the regime. Why do we think that suddenly this is going to do the same thing?
Because the people who weren't deterred are now dead. That's
yeah,
number
but,
one.
but let me.
Number
but
two.
let
They're
me,
dead.
But
They're no longer with us.
Those people are dead, but there are other people.
Yeah, we'll take them too.
Scott,
I agree with you on that.
And
of Ayatollahs.
There's no
There's
indication.
7 layers deep on
we are 72 hours into this.
You're making a good case for this.
There's no indication,
Exactly.
as we sit here tonight, that there have been any political changes in Iran. So my question is, if bombs dropping a year ago didn't change it,
Well, dude, it's been like 2
what
days.
is the
Come
rationale
on.
for thinking that bombs dropping today are going to change the actual political dynamics on the ground in Iran?
Because the vast majority of people who live in Iran are not even Muslim. It's only like 30 or 35% of people who live in Iran are Muslim, for one. I mean, that's to start with.
Well, look, you're asking a broad question about justification and what we intend to do with these guys over the long term. The justification is, A, we had a huge problem with the ballistic missiles, and we did believe that if Israel, according to the Secretary of State, attacked, and they intended to attack, that our bases were going to be targeted. They were not willing to absorb that attack, so we attacked. That is what the Secretary of State has said. You can agree with it, disagree with it, but that is the justification. That's number one. Number two.
Of course you disagree.
Does that make sense? You think?
Well, I think it's pretty obvious that the Iranians are not shy about firing ballistic missiles across the region.
They do it all the time.
Last summer and watched many of them in the
But where
sky
do you
above my
stand,
head.
Scott? Are you for this invasion or not? You seem to be dancing around the question.
No,
you think this was a good idea?
No, I'm quite for it.
And you think that was?
I think these butchers deserve to die, not just because of the missiles, not just because of the nuclear program, but for 47 years, Josh, they have waged war against Western civilization, against the United States. Their mantra is death to America. They have killed
Number
American
one state
soldiers,
sponsor of
American
terrorism.
personnel. They have maimed people, our people. And so if you want to go back decades, or
IED,
you want to go back
the roadside
2 weeks,
bombs.
there's plenty of reasons to believe that those people that we kill being gone is good for U.S. national security. That's my view. I'm mourned, by the way, and we should say the loss of the U.S. servicemen who I think died in
if President
a
Trump
noble
makes
cause.
a deal with the next guy down in the IRGC and says, okay, just like Venezuela, we'll have the Chavistas without Maduro, we'll have the IRGC without the Ayatollah. Are you going to then switch and be like, oh, that's great, we're just going to do a deal with the Ayatollah's successor,
take them all out.
Ayatollah and the next IRGC, and then you're just going to switch
Take
and
out
be
the
like,
IRGC.
okay, we're fine with the regime because Trump said it's fine.
The president said his objectives are, and I think these are worthy, They're not going to have the missiles. They're not going to have nuclear weapons. If whoever becomes the next leadership in Iran says, okay, we're tired of being punished for missiles and nuclear weapons, that would be a good outcome that I think we would all be happy about.
Well, there's.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a fair point. I mean, hopefully it just becomes completely liberated by the people of Iran. I think that's really the final objective that they're looking for. And we've got this next one breaking. More than 1,000 enemy combatants have reportedly been eliminated in Iran since Operation Epic Fury began.
A senior Israeli official telling Fox News that more than 1,000 enemy combatants have been killed in Iran since the operation began. This is based on their latest battle damage assessment. As we continue to track developments here, we are looking to Israel's northern border with Lebanon, where overnight the Israelis sent forces into southern Lebanon to take what Israeli officials are calling a defensive posture against the Iran-backed terror group Hezbollah. This posture is expected to remain over concerns about cross-border attacks. Overnight, more rockets were fired into northern Israel from Lebanon, and the Israelis striking back, hitting more targets in the Lebanese capital of Beirut, specifically around the Dakhya neighborhood, a Hezbollah stronghold. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu speaking with Sean Hannity overnight saying this.
With these ballistic missiles, these weapons of mass death, these weapons of terror, they're terror weapons. They bombed all these countries. And when they develop the intercontinental ballistic missiles, they'll threaten you and eventually they'll bomb you. This is what President Trump understood. And alone among U.S. presidents that I've worked with, he took action.
Yeah, he actually did. He took action. Yeah, most presidents wouldn't have done that. Just in, the IDF has eliminated Iran's top commander who oversaw the Quds forces in Lebanon involved in connecting Hezbollah terrorists with the Islamic regime. Another one. This is not going to end well for Iran, not even a little bit.
Breaking news, the IDF telling Fox moments ago that they have eliminated Iran's top commander overseeing the Quds forces in Lebanon.
Got him.
Now, this individual is described as at the brigadier general level. As I mentioned, one of the highest commanders there, connecting Hezbollah with the Iranian terror regime. So this is a significant takedown in this strike on Tehran, and it's just the latest out of the Middle East. And that's as President Trump says Iran's forces have been largely wiped out. And he confirmed that attack that Israel conducted this morning on Iranian leadership as they were counting their votes. They took out this Iranian leadership. Big deal. Lots of news. Stay with Fox News all day. We've got more.
Yeah, obviously, that's the big news of the day, that they took out that leadership when they were trying to elect the next supreme leader. So who knows how long it's going to take for them to elect the next one. U.S. Central Command, the Iranian regime's killer drones have been a menace in the Middle East for years. These drones are no longer a tolerable risk. And I think generally these are not going to have any audio. If you notice them on the ground, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, they're just sitting out there. They're all just taken out. Boom. There's another drone. And another. Yep, just picking them off one by one. Getting rid of them. As the Secretary of War stated this morning, U.S. forces are hitting Iran surgically, overwhelmingly, and apologetically. Operation Epic Fury is laser focused on destroying Iranian offensive missiles. Got more without sound. And it took out the whole truck. We got another one there. And another. Just wiping them all out, man, one by one. The Iranian regime is using mobile launchers to indiscriminately fire missiles in an attempt to inflict maximum harm across the region. U.S. forces are hunting these threats down, and without apology or hesitation, we are taking them out. So there's one moving, on the move. Damn, that was a hell of a flash. Oh, wow, yeah. Got him. One by one. Yep, huge explosions, taking them all out. U.S. Central Command got another one. U.S. Navy guided missile destroyers are delivering unrelenting, overwhelming firepower from regional waters day and night. some nice footage. I mean, warfare is way different than it used to be. It's a whole different game now. A war of missiles, technology. Eric Doherty just in footage released of Iran's Islamic Assembly of Experts building in Tehran, blown up by Israel, where they were trying to meet and choose a new supreme leader. So we're going to finally get to see what this building looks like. Incredible timing. Their Muslim quote-unquote experts are gone now. Keep hitting them hard. Yep, so there's the building. There's the left of it. Yep, another one, or ones, bite the dust. And Caroline Leavitt, the White House press secretary, quote, the U.S. Department of State has taken historic action to assist American citizens who wish to depart the Middle East return to the United States. In the past several days, over 9,000 American citizens have safely returned from the Middle East, including over 300 from Israel. And U.S. assistance to ensure the safety of American citizens overseas. This is going to be on state.gov. And U.S. assistance with citizens in the Middle East, Americans. U.S. Department of State has taken historic action to assist American citizens who wish to depart the Middle East, return to the United States. In the past several days, over 9,000 American citizens have safely returned home from the Middle East, including 300 from Israel. The department is facilitating charter flights from the United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, and Jordan for American citizens, and will continue to secure additional capacity as security conditions allow. Commercial aviation adoptions remain available in Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Oman, and Egypt, and the department is actively helping American citizens book those tickets. For those in countries lacking commercial aviation availability, the department is facilitating travel to third countries as the conditions allow. This includes increasing ground transportation options for American citizens wishing to leave Israel. The department has answered calls from nearly 3,000 American citizens in the Middle East and continues to provide travel options for those wishing to leave. The department will also waive any statutory requirement for American citizens to reimburse the government for travel expenses. So, I think that's a good thing, just given the circumstances. I mean, they had no warning that this was going to happen. It just essentially just happened completely out of the blue. And it doesn't sound like that they're offering military flights all the way back to the U.S. It sounds like that, at best, they're offering them a way to exit the immediate vicinity of the conflict zone and flying into a neighboring country so they can, book their travel plans from there. And from Dylan Johnson, yes, the State Department is actively securing military aircraft and charter flights from for American citizens who wish to leave the Middle East. And of course, the phone number is there again, 202-501-4444. And good copy. Can we also address whether any mil, air, or chartered flights out of the region are anticipated? Fellow citizens have questions and concerns. And this is from Stephen Chiang. Media requests, please run this information on your screens and socials to get this information out to people in the region looking for updates on travel. Which, of course, we already saw that. And let's head on to the next. From Drew Hernandez, wars can be fought forever. This is a post from President Donald Trump on his Truth Social account. And we'll have a look at that. Okay, here we go. The United States munition stockpiles have at the medium and upper medium grade have never have been higher or better. As was stated to me today, we have a virtually unlimited supply of these weapons. Wars can be fought forever and very successfully using just these supplies, which are better than other countries' finest arms. At the highest end, we have a good supply, but are not where we want to be. Much additional high-grade weaponry is stored for us in outlying countries. Sleepy Joe Biden spent all of his time and our country's money giving everything to P.T. Barnum, Zelensky of Ukraine. Hundreds of billions of dollars worth, and while he gave so much to the super high-end away for free, he didn't bother to replace it. Fortunately, I rebuilt the military in my first term and continue to do so. The United States is stocked and ready to win big. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. All right. So I think we're going to move on past the Iranian conflict, and we're just going to get to just a couple of other things that happened today. Just a couple of just extra videos here and there that I just happened across, including this one from Clown World. They were renovating when they cut into the bottom of a wall and coins started pouring out. Every time a hand went back into that opening, more loose change followed. This is too satisfying to pass up. I came across this today.
I don't know how much money
Dude just like digs out tons of coins. I'd be checking the date. I wonder how long those coins have been back there.
Oh my God.
Looks like Mexican pesos. Yeah, I could be wrong. Actually, I think I saw a quarter, U.S. quarter.
What?
Oh, wait a minute. I had a glimpse at this dime. That looks like a mercury dime from like the 1930s or 40s. Yeah, right here. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. That it could be maybe like a Mexican or a dime or something. I mean, yeah, I don't know. Maybe it is. It just goes on and on.
Yeah? What? Fucking dollars? Money? Oh. It keeps coming. What? No way. Like what? Oh my God.
That's crazy, man. I wish that happened to me. It's just some of the stuff that people just stash away in their houses are just absolutely just crazy and mesmerizing sometimes. There was a house that somebody was renovating. It was somewhere in the in the Great Plains states, one of the flyover states, where they found a whole bunch of bottles of liquor from the Prohibition era, and most of them still had the alcohol in them. Apparently, it was still drinkable and everything. It was just perfectly preserved in between these walls, and like they found a bunch. They found like 50 or 100 bottles worth, and I don't know if they really have any substantial value. It didn't come from any recognizable company or anything. I believe they were German and imported from Germany. It was like just some just obscure company, because back during Prohibition, people just pretty much got whatever they could get their hands on. All right, so Colin Rugg, 2 hot air balloon occupants left stranded after getting stuck 920 feet in the air on a cell phone tower in Longview, Texas. Longview Fire Department was seen climbing up the tower to save the 2 occupants. It took them an hour to reach the balloon. Both occupants were rescued and taken to the hospital. Good grief, screw that, man. My palms are getting sweaty. Can't stand heights. We have no clue how the hell they're going to get the balloon down. These firefighters, they'd never get paid enough. I mean, if they were to hire somebody on contract to go out there and do that, how much do you think they'd charge? They'd probably charge thousands of dollars to ascend up 1,000 feet up onto a radio tower to conduct a rescue, whereas firefighters are pretty sure their salary. So they're not going to get some extreme bonus or any big payout or anything for risking their lives to do that. I mean, you know, the firefighters, they never get enough credit. Alpha News, Senate GOP unveils legislation to cap property taxes, require public approval for large increases. This bill to cap property taxes, along with pausing any new mandates on our communities, will help keep the American dream affordable for our state, Minnesota, Senator Michael Kroon said. And that's it. No video. It's just a statement. And from ALX or Alex, depending on how you want to read it, that smirk tells it all. And, oh yeah, either some or maybe all of the Bill Clinton footage from his testimony appears to have been released. I didn't catch that today. Maybe it was released yesterday or over the weekend. You know, everything's just been kind of put on the back burner after the whole Iran conflict erupted. I'm assuming that Hillary Clinton's footage is out there too. They were supposed to release hers first.
Let me see it.
Oh, he's looking at pictures.
Okay.
Mr. President, we have about 5 minutes remaining in the majority's first hour, so I just want to ask you some questions related to the crimes committed by Mr. Epstein and Miss Maxwell.
Well, he's all, frail looking, whether if he's pretending or not, I don't know. But it says Bill Clinton is smiling while looking back through old Epstein photos and nodding over memories. His attorney snatches them out of Bill's hands. Okay, this is the big alien files release Trump is talking about, and this is in response to Elon Musk. He said maybe white people came from outer space. I don't know where that came from. It's just kind of out of nowhere. He didn't. I don't think he replied to anybody. Oh, yeah, he did. Okay, yeah, here we go. So from Colin Wright, I read a lot of woke scholarship, and the way the term indigenous is used makes it clear it's being treated as the antithesis of white, because white is viewed as nearly synonymous with colonizer or settler. In this framework, indigenous refers to pre-settler societies, see figure. But if white and settler are treated as synonyms, the logic forces the bizarre conclusion that most of Europe has no indigenous population at all, and white people are native to nowhere. The left likes to criticize what they call scientific racism, but there are few clearer examples of it than this. And then he just adds this image. I'm not going to go through all the details of that. If you want to pause it and take a look at it real quick, you can. But Elon Musk... and then, so it looks like Elon Musk posted this first, and then this guy replied to Elon Musk. This was his original post. If one is to use the term First Nations or Indigenous peoples or Native Americans in the Americas or antipodes, then in fairness, it should also apply to English, French, Spanish, and other such peoples in Europe. Yeah, okay. But anyway, and he concluded saying that maybe white people came from outer space. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe, just maybe. Probably not, but maybe. Yeah. All right, so Eric Doherty, wow, Argentina President Javier Milei eviscerated leftist officials to their faces. And I'm just going to read out the quote because he's going to probably be shouting this in Spanish. But he says, listen up, you ignorant fools. Social justice is theft. It implies unequal treatment before the law and is preceded by theft. You bunch of thieves, criminals. That's why you have your own woman in jail. Not sure who he's referring to, but must be some left-winger.
A ver, ignorantes, la justicia social es un robo, implica un trato desigual frente a la ley y está precedido de un robo, manga de ladrones, delincuentes. Por eso tienen a la suya presa.
Well, there you go. You get a taste of a Congress in Argentina, how they do things down there. But he completely turned their economy around. I mean, when he was elected president, their inflation was something like 300% year over year, and I think it's dropped to basically flat, as far as I understand. Senate Republicans' home ownership for many Americans is completely out of reach. Senator Tim Scott's Road to Housing Act will make housing more affordable, all without a single dollar more of federal spending. Median age of first-time homebuyers is up to 40. And that, again, that's first-time home buyers. It's at 40 years old. I mean, in 2010, it was only 30. So it went from 30 to 40 years old in 15 years. Absolutely crazy. And they did get ratioed, right? Yeah, they did, over 2 to 1. I mean, it wasn't that bad when I saw it earlier. So a lot of people aren't very happy. I left this comment. I know Trump and Republicans don't want to hear it, but it's simply about the price. Housing must come down to the $200K level on average. It's that simple. It will take decades for wages to catch up to the $400K average price. Young Americans are paying very close attention. And then, of course, there's probably going to be a lot of other pushback. Of course, Pass the Save Act is going to be pretty common. The BAT provision develops best practice frameworks for zoning land use to reduce local barriers. You're letting feds determine zoning and usage when that should remain local as we live here. I mean, that's a fair point. So let's see. Force the mega quality companies to sell all of their single family homes. Yeah, I think a lot of people would really appreciate that. That would probably bring down the cost of housing, at least temporarily. This isn't the Save America Act. Why aren't you focusing on that? See, bring the Save America Act to the floor, pass the Save America Act. So Save America Act. Yeah, that's what it's probably going to primarily consist of in the comments. People just want the Save America Act to be passed. I mean, it's quite clear. That's what Americans want right now. They don't want anything else in the moment. Just pass the Save America Act, and then we can focus on everything else, because that's extremely important, especially when we're in the midterm election season. All right, so from NASA, of course, I'm going to finish up with this. We have increased the cadence of Artemis missions. In 2027, the Artemis 3 mission will test one or both commercial landers from SpaceX and Blue Origin in low Earth orbit. In 2028, Artemis 4 will become the first Artemis lunar landing. they've shuffled things around a bit because I believe, actually, it's not that I believe, I know that Artemis 3 was destined to be the Artemis to land on the moon. So it looks like that they're pushing it back. The moon landing wasn't scheduled for 2028 regardless. So it ultimately, and as far as the time frame goes, it really doesn't make much of a difference. And I believe they have a follow-up to this. So the Artemis 2 mission, set to launch no earlier than April of 2026, remains unchanged. 4 astronauts will journey around the moon and verify the Orion spacecraft's critical life support systems and prepare for future Artemis missions. And then they've got an article on their website following up with that. And then they also go over the Artemis 1, 2, Artemis 3, 4, and 5. Just the different missions that they're going to be conducting in the years ahead. And I believe that is all that I've got for this episode. Cue in the music. Yeah, I think, that's going to be it, because that was the post. And yeah, I think we got that. Yeah, that was from yesterday, so I'm all good. So that's going to do it for this episode. If you enjoyed tonight's episode, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. And I'll be back tomorrow night as we explore the swamp Monday through Friday and everyone in it, the politicians, bureaucrats, agencies, and the administration. I also post daily on X, which is where you can peek at the content for tomorrow's episode. And don't forget, video clips from tonight will begin dropping on this channel tomorrow at 8 a.m. Eastern. Thank you very much for watching. Always remember to stay positive. God bless the troops and God bless America.